not all jungle terrors roar, some whisper. In 2016, Dr. Mara Santos vanished during a solo expedition in the Philippine rainforest. All that remained was her camcorder and recordings of voices coming from the vines. This is not folklore. This is the final story she left behind. And it still whispers. The expedition sets out. Dr. Mara Santos had always been drawn to what others feared: remote jungles, ancient plants, and whispers buried in the soil. In 2016, she set out on a solo ethnobotanical expedition to the Sierra Madre Mountains in the Philippines, a dense stretch of rainforest untouched by modern mapping. Her goal was simple: to document a rare species of vine rumored to have healing properties. Accompanied by a local guide named Rafael, she carried only what she needed: a machete, field journal, satellite phone, and a compact camcorder to document her findings. Locals warned her not to go too deep, citing strange tales of people who heard voices in the forest and never came back. But Mara brushed it off as superstition. On the second day, while following a faint game trail, both explorers noticed something odd. Birdsong had stopped, and beneath the stillness, if they listened closely, they could swear the leaves were whispering. Whispers in the canopy. By their third night, the jungle had grown unnaturally quiet. The usual chatter of insects and birds had faded into a tense silence. It was then that Mara began to hear them clearly, whispers drifting just above her tent, moving through the treetops like fog. At first, she thought it was her mind playing tricks, but when Rafael froze and asked, "Do you hear that too?" she knew it was real. The voices were not loud but layered, like dozens of murmurs overlapping, none of them speaking any recognizable language. When they played back the camcorder's night audio, the whispers were louder on tape than in real life. Some words stood out: Tabinji, twisted, Balak, return, Giesing, wake up. It felt as if the jungle was not just alive, but aware, and worse, it knew their names. Rafael started leaving food offerings at the base of the trees. Mara just kept recording. The vines move. On the fifth day, while Mara was documenting an unusually thick vine wrapped around a fallen log, something strange happened. As she reached out with her gloved hand to measure it, the vine shifted, slowly, like a snake, sensing warmth. At first, she thought it was just a coincidence. But then the vine began curling upward, coiling loosely around her forearm. It wasn't fast or aggressive, just curious. She instinctively slashed at it with her field knife. It recoiled instantly, disappearing into the underbrush like it had been startled. Breathing heavily, Mara looked around. More vines had uncurled from nearby trees, some hanging motionless, others slowly swaying despite the still air. When she returned to camp, Rafael stared at her arm in horror and asked if she had spoken to it. That night, Mara woke up to find vine fragments placed in a circle around her sleeping bag, arranged like symbols. A farewell note. The next morning, Rafael was gone. His pack was missing. So was the satellite phone. Left behind was a torn page from Mara's journal, scrawled with a shaky hand. They are not plants. They are listening. They remember the ones who cut. Below that, in smaller handwriting, were the words, "They hunger tonight." Mara searched the perimeter, calling his name for hours, but the jungle gave nothing back. No footprints, no broken twigs. It was as if he had simply dissolved into the green. She found one of his boots half buried under a tangle of roots, laced tight, as if someone had deliberately placed it there. though fear gripped her chest, Mara refused to leave. She had come too far. She believed knowledge would protect her. She believed the vines only acted in defense. She was wrong. That night, the whispering came from inside her tent, soft, rhythmic, and calling her name. Nightfall, ritual. Darkness in the jungle falls like a curtain, sudden and suffocating. Mara lit her last emergency lantern and sat still, holding the camcorder tight. She was surrounded by the quiet rhythm of leaves brushing one another, yet no wind stirred. The whispers grew clearer now, shifting from nonsense to language. Her own voice was being repeated, phrases she had spoken days earlier. Medicinal properties, cross-section of stem, record audio. Each word returned distorted as if repeated by 100 small mouths buried in leaves. Vines had begun to coil around the outer poles of her tent, tightening slowly. She filmed everything, whispering her thoughts into the lens. "I think they mimic," she said. "I think they learn through sound." The firewood refused to catch. Every step outside felt heavier, and when she finally peeked out, she saw something she could not explain. Leaves shaped like ears. They moved as she spoke. They were listening. The first victim. Just past midnight, Mara heard something dragging across the forest floor. Heavy, slow. She turned on her camcorder and crawled to the tent's flap. In the faint glow of her lantern, a figure stumbled into view. It was Rafael, or what remained of him. His skin was pale, lips cracked, eyes wide and unfocused. Vines snaked across his chest and neck like veins, some visibly pulsing. He whispered a single word, "Tabingi," twisted. Then he collapsed. The vines that had bound him slithered backward into the soil, vanishing as if they had never existed. Mara knelt beside him, but there was no breath, no pulse. His mouth was packed with damp leaves. She tried to scream, but the forest swallowed the sound. She dragged his body inside the tent, zipped it closed, and hit record again. "They are feeding on memory," she said, voice trembling. "They are not killing. They are transforming." Forest's verdict. At sunrise, the forest looked different. Trees had shifted subtly, angled unnaturally, like they were leaning in. The soil beneath her tent was damp, but it hadn't rained. Mara emerged to find Rafael's body gone. No drag marks, no blood, only his journal, open to a final entry. She stayed too long. Mara looked up. High above in the canopy, she saw a shape coiled around the branches, thick, veined, glistening in the sun. It moved with a patience that made her bones ache. She grabbed the camcorder, backed away slowly, and began speaking. "I think I've passed the boundary. I don't think I can leave." Her final clip ends with a low, humming vibration rising in pitch until the screen cuts to black. When authorities later searched the area, they found nothing, not even footprints, just the camcorder, half buried in a root tangle, still powered on and warm to the touch. Echoes of the jungle. Weeks later, villagers along the forest's edge reported strange sightings. Leaves twitching when no wind blew. A figure, sometimes woman, sometimes root-covered, glimpsed between trees. Some said they heard whispers at night, repeating their own voices back to them with a delay. Others awoke to find vines coiled softly around their door frames. One elder, after watching the leaked footage, warned, "She didn't die. She became." The camcorder now sits in a university archive, unlisted and rarely accessed. Researchers who've watched the full footage report sleepwalking, faint whispers and white noise, and dreams of suffocation beneath layers of damp earth. Mara Santos was declared missing, officially. But in the jungle, some say she still listens, still learns, and still waits. Not every explorer returns. Some go too far, dig too deep, and awaken things meant to remain forgotten. If the forest ever goes quiet around you and the vines seem to lean in, do not speak, do not record. Turn back before it's too late. Some whispers were never meant to be heard.